Matt Chatham, let's go ahead and look back on the season that was, handing out some team superlatives now. We'll start with most valuable player. Who is your team MVP?
Technically, an offensive line isn't a player, so I'm being forced to pick an individual here. I'm going to go with Damian Harris because this was either the third or fourth best running team in the NFL. They statistically end up in that spot. Not easy to get there, even especially on a bad team that couldn't throw the football. So one of the best running teams in Coach Belichick's tenure. So a lot of other disappointment, but that area was definitely not one of them.
Yeah, that offensive line definitely improved from last year, but how about your most improved player?
Yeah, I think it's Jacoby Myers. And honestly, it's a tough thing to say someone has improved dramatically. I think we just saw more of him. It's like sort of the car that had been in the garage, granted as a rookie. Even though there was a big chunk of early season here, he wasn't being used much either. But he was more just let him go, target him. He's running great routes. He's open quite a bit. And once they discovered him, yes, he got a lot more stats. Does that mean he's most improved? His usage improved. Let's put it that way.
He looks most improved on paper, most likely to succeed. So who's poised to take a big step forward next season?
I am a giant Chase Winovich fan, and that doesn't mean there aren't giant holes in his game. I'm a big advocate of what he can do. He's just got a lot of growth to go. That dude is super disruptive. You know, he can get off the ball, he can bend, he just has a knack for making plays. But as a regular down defensive linebacker, he struggles a little bit with pressing offensive linemen. He's just more of a get-around guy. So he's going to have to add a little strength, a little weight, all that kind of stuff in the offseason, work on his craft as a run stopper. We already know he's ace in the other half of it.
Yeah, it seems like he's back on Bill Belichick's good side as well. Best couple. Ooh. Go ahead.
Best couple is probably, and we didn't get to see a lot of these guys together. That's the unfortunate part. But I think the fact that you have a roster with both Damian Harris and Sony Michel on it,
good choice.
It's a home run. And honestly, you know, it's not even a couple here. It's really more of a triplet because I think I'd throw in James White, and you hope that they get that deal done and retain James, because to have that little threesome go forward with this team, paired with an offensive line that we presume will mostly be together again next year, it's a good starting point for wherever you want to go with the quarterback situation.
All right, here's the superlative you don't necessarily want to be associated with, but biggest disappointment?
It's unfair, but I have to say it. But it's the quarterback position. I think in part not because Cam Newton, should have been expected to be a Pro Bowler or anything like that. He was completely handicapped in how this whole season came about. Arrives late. There's no offseason, no preseason games, so no live reps. But I think he tantalized a lot of us. What happened there in September, I think, gave sort of a false sense that he was off and rolling and this was going to be like the old MVP guy. So I think part of the disappointment really came from how well he seemed to take to things early. Then there was the bump, which was reasonable. You know, the COVID stuff, it's an interruption that is going to screw up a lot of games, and it did. But not being able to sort of get back on track and ascend in these last 7, 8, 9 weeks, whatever it was, I think is a pretty big disappointment because he's a talented guy and he's a great pro, and it was just not good enough, though.
We'll wrap it up with this. If you could pick a yearbook quote for the Patriots, what would you go with?
I think this roster is better than you think. And that's not something
that's the quote?
That's it. This roster is better than you think. It's a lost season. I think there's a lot of reasons, signed by Matt underneath there.
Yeah, right. But, stay cool, man.
Stay cool, man. But, I think it's going to be a season that is probably forgettable for most fans. They're going to want to sort of wipe this one away. They'll remember the Cam Newton portion of it. They'll remember, maybe the running game a little bit. But I just tend to think most people are going to want to erase this thing and remember it as weapons issues and all those sort of narrative stuff. Yeah, let's not go down that road. But my point is, I don't think that that's how you should remember this. You should remember that it was this crazy COVID year. They were in a very, very bad cap situation. They found their quarterback just before camp started. He got COVID during the year. They lost a lot of guys, more than anyone else in the NFL, to opt-outs, and it was just a bridge year that we'd probably all like to kind of forget and get on to the next one. But I think you'll be surprised that in this next year, a lot of this core is who's making you play really well. I think the roster's stronger than people realize. All
right, I've got goodbye to the mistakes we've made. Remember the laughs we've shared. Hope deep. You had the time of your life. Matt Chatham, appreciate all your help tonight, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.